Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I'm David Krueger, the Creator's Apprentice, high-level gin member and student of Kevin Trudeau. With me today, now I know many of you commented and really liked the interview I did with Rex Sykes, who's an old friend of Kevin's. Well, I've got someone special for you this week. With me is an old friend of mine, Josh Novey. He's been a member of the Global Information Network almost as long as I have. And Josh is the first person that Kevin Trudeau came to live with when he came out of Montgomery, when he came out of prison. And that's a very special story that Josh is going to tell us. Josh, welcome. Glad to have you here, buddy.
Thank you for having me on, David. Good to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time. You know, I'm going to be reaching out to many of the people who do fly on the wall training with Kevin. And I thought, who is like the ultimate fly? But you and me, really. I mean, we saw something no one else saw. We lived with Kevin when the when all the when the filter's off, just living life. And so we have some good stories to tell, and I really wanted to share with my audience your story. So as we start here, we'll start at the beginning. Before Jen, who was Josh Novey before he joined the Global Information Network and started on that course? Paint us a little picture of him.
Well, I was someone who was at a crossroads in my life. A lot of changes happening in relationships and my financial life. And I had gotten to a point where I knew I wanted more and I didn't know how to get it. I just knew that what I was doing was not working for me, and I was hungry for change. And the universe was only too happy to provide me an avenue for change, something that was off my radar, but literally came to me right after I put that out to the universe. I'll do whatever it takes to change, bring it on.
What was that thing the universe brought you?
Your wish is your command, like an
Yes.
original.
Okay. Yeah, you had one of the original black and white copies, didn't you? I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah, you had that's a classic. That's a collector's item. Yeah, your story, Josh, of knowing that you wanted more but you weren't sure what. I think a lot of people who come to Kevin's material, and especially to Jen, can tell a very similar story. It's like we're seeking something, but when we haven't seen it yet, we're not quite sure what that is. We just know it's something. Kevin always talks about, we're not looking for everybody in this club. We're looking for people who are looking for this. And the right people will join. They don't scoff at the membership dues. They just do it. And that's really, if you think about it, that's all of us. So joining Jen, what was the moment that you decided to join? A lot of us listen to your wish is your command. Back in the day we had that CD set. Now people are reading the book. So what was the moment for you when you decided I'm joining this club?
About halfway through my first time listening to your wish is your command, and I was pacing the floor and I was listening to it, and I knew truth when I heard it. And then he started talking about the club and the original set, and I was in. I tried to join right away, and the website said coming soon. So I put my credit card in. My credit card company did not share my vision, so it took me a little while to get there, but I got there.
Okay. So you got there, and your first event, I believe, what was your first event?
My first event was the 2011 cruise, the first year they had the cruise.
Okay. Yep, that's right. Yeah, the 20. Yeah. So my first event was the one right before yours. I know because and I didn't meet you until family reunion in 2011. I think that's when we met. And yeah, we had a beer for your birthday. And the next morning, I introduced you to my mother, and she won a BMW.
5 minutes after I met her, she won a free
Yeah,
car.
yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah, yeah. Kevin loves to give things away, as those of us in Gin know, and they were having a big giveaway. You had to have been to a couple of major events, and there were a couple other qualifications, and they were going to have a drawing for five not one, but five BM, or was it 10? Was it 10?
I
I
think it
think it
was
was
10.
10 BMWs. Yeah, it was 10. And that was one of those things I just knew I was going to win one of those cars. I had it on my dream board. You're at the sweet spot. You can taste it. And then Chris McGarrihan pulls up the Nancy Krueger, and my mother, who doesn't even like German cars, she already had her dream car. I'm like, are you kidding me? And one of our friends later on said, Nancy, the reason you won that car is because you wanted it so badly for David. So the universe gave you a way to give it to David. I thought that was very sweet. Probably true. Um,
Get a chance to
yeah.
drive a nice car.
Yeah, yeah, you get to drive. Yeah, and I brought it to Chicago. Um, just a question for you about the club. We talk about it a lot, and our first events, and all the things. If you were speaking, someone might be watching this video, and they're not in gin, and they're maybe thinking about getting in gin. What, in your words, do you think this club and this life gives you that you can't get anywhere else?
Well, the great thing about the club is for people who want to not just take their life to the next level, but kind of understand some of the things in their life, why certain things are working, why certain things are not working, and have an avenue to try to figure out the things that are important to them that they might not really understand, whether it's health, finance, or relationships, how to really not just fix that, but at least have an understanding of why they've created some of the things in their life and why some of the things have happened. uh, it gives them an understanding and a knowing about where they're at and what steps they could take in order to improve the direction they're going in. So if they want, say, a better relationship or better finances, they have steps, they have some knowing with the club of some action steps. I could do this, I could take this, and I know I'm going to see results because the 100 people before me who I just met are all seeing results. And as they take those
Okay.
steps, they do see results every time.
Okay. So it's like, so it sounds like what you're saying is like, this, you can learn the score in your own life, and then you can get real steps to take to improve it and get wherever you want to go, whatever that might be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. 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 That's a great way to put it. That is a great way to put it. And it's funny. We all want different things. We there's this um assumption that everybody just wants money, 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 money for everything. And granted, yeah, you and I, we like money, or at least more money than we have, but so many of us, I think what we really want is what money can buy us, or what we believe money can buy us. We want that peace, that happiness, the love in our lives, and that sense of wholeness. Most of us don't want to be Elon Musk or even Kevin Trudeau. It's like, we don't necessarily need all of that. We just don't want anybody telling us when we have to punch a time clock. We don't want to have to look at the price and the menus in the restaurant, and we want to just enjoy time with our families. I think a lot of people, in fact, if you're watching this video, comment below if that's your dream, or if you have a different dream and you want to be Elon Musk, blow up the comments and let us know that too. Um, something a comment that you made. Of course, I always do. Even you, buddy, I do research on everybody. Before I have them on, and you made a comment about the money. We're going to talk about money processes here just a little bit, about a little bit of, and I'm asking this because a lot of people have had the same thing happen, and so I'm just going to put you on the hot seat about things maybe blowing up a little bit after you did the money processes. And please, for those who don't know, give a little primer on what the money processes are.
Well, the money processes essentially, like all those energetic processes, clear counterintention in your field, in your subconscious. Um, there's more detail than I could probably give on this interview, but
Okay.
essentially, it kind of rewires you a little bit, so that what you're trying to create is in alignment more with who you are and who you want to be. And for a lot of people, myself included, I had big dreams, but what I was doing, where I was at, wasn't necessarily congruent with the vision of myself of what I thought I could be, where I actually wanted to go.
Uh, Okay. And so what happened after you did the money process?
Well, the first week I had the biggest sale of my life, and I thought, this is great. This is what life is going to be. But no, um, it was just great energy from sitting in a room with 300 people doing money processes for 3 days,
Okay.
um, which was great. But as Kevin said, it was like taking a ship that's been going in one direction and now you're going in a different direction. So I was not in alignment with who I was, with what I was doing for money. And so the universe is like, that's great. Well, if you want this, first we have to get rid of all this other stuff in your life that isn't really in alignment with who you want to be. Well, for me, that
Okay.
was my business. And I'm like, wait, I need this to live. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Can't just stare. I know people have talked about that. You close your business down or you lose your job. It's like, but wait a minute, this is my thing. No, you gotta change it up. You got to go after the real thing. I was
Yeah.
I was
So
just yeah.
it's taken me time to
Yeah.
kind of
So
figure it out, and I'm still figuring it out.
yeah. Yeah. And that can be, a part of the process. I think people go through, I'm going to do the money processes and then I'm going to be rich. The counterintentions, keeping you from being rich will be cleared out, but there are certain things you have to do. You have to figure it out. And I think probably part of the reason you are successfully figuring it out is because you're so well trained. It's the other thing is the gin training. It's like we have people come. I used to, when Kevin was doing them, we would have these dinners, these money process dinners, where people who would come in and do the money process, they'd watch the videos. Kevin only did it live one time, but people will come into town and they'll do the money processes. And Kevin, his promise was I'll take you out to dinner. I'm not sure if he's still doing that. And I was living with him in the house. I would just tag along, and I would be chatting with these people and they would be wondering, well, I don't know if I want to upgrade I join Gin at level 1 or should I get another money process? And I was like doing this. To me, it was like, it's not even an option. You need to be training no matter what, otherwise this stuff can almost be dangerous. You constantly be training and honing your mind because that's what's going to create, once you clear all this counterintention, that's what's going to create what you have. So anyway, that's our rant about money processes, and you might want to consider going on the track we're on and constantly training your mind. But back to the Kevin story. So you were one of the first people that he came to when he got out. I mean, Blaine and Tom actually intercepted him and brought him to you, and he lived with you for the first several months. And this is a part of the story that a lot of people haven't heard. Kevin's made references to it in some of the gin training about I lived with Josh Novey, but how did that come to be that Kevin lived with, of all the places people he could have gone and people who would have wanted him, how did it come to be that, and you didn't know him really before. I mean, you were a member of Gin, but yeah, just tell us briefly the story of how that happened.
Kevin and I had met a few times before his little sabbatical, but no, I wouldn't have considered him a close friend or anything like that. And I didn't really know if he knew me other than letters he had received. But Dr. Tom and Blaine, they knew me because I never left the club the whole time. And so even when the club was small and they were holding it afloat, they knew me because I was an upper level member. And through them, I had begun the retreats with your help at that time. And so they had an opportunity back during COVID to get people who were prisoners and eligible for early release out. And I happened to live in the county where his case was, and I was known quantity. So they called me up. Dr. Tom called me up one day. It's like, "Are you alone?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm alone." It's like, "This is really private. Make sure you're alone." And I'm looking around. I live alone. There's no one in the house as far as I know. Um, and so they, asked if Kevin could come out. They didn't know how long it would be. If they were looking for a landing spot for him, something that the judge would approve. And I said yes. They asked me, this could be a really big deal. You might want to think about it. Like, no, I don't need to think about this. Uh, this is an opportunity, not just for me, for him. And who knows what's going to come of this. I'm in wherever this goes, whatever happens, let's play it through. Let's see what happens. And I'm in. So just let me know what you need of me, and I'm there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you telling me the story afterwards because while this was going on, you and I were doing our weekly future pacing call. And during this call, we'd catch up a little bit. What's going on in your life? Future pacing, by the way, gang, is it's a manifestation technique where you're telling the person a story. Maybe I have a dream. I want to have a boat, house on the lake, and I describe how beautiful it is. And I'll be talking to Josh about it and telling it to him in past tense as if it's already happened. And it's a way to get the mind visualizing and believing that which you want. And Josh and I would do this on a weekly basis. And for 6 months, this was going on. You didn't whisper a word of it to me. And I remember the day I found out, I was like, I was texting you. You didn't tell me.
Couldn't tell you. I was
You,
sworn
you
to see.
couldn't. You never did. It was Kevin himself who ended up telling me that's another story. Um, but yeah, because I was interviewing for Team Alpha. I interviewed to be on his first volunteer team, and he brought on a Zoom call, and we're ending, and he decided to work with me. I was on the team, and he says, by the way, I don't know if you recognize the background here, but your friend Josh Novey. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm living with him, and he just couldn't tell you. And I'm like, and this has been in the works for 6 months. 6 months. So yeah, that's I thought that spoke a lot to your integrity. If somebody tells Josh Novey to keep a secret, he'll keep it.
You would
So that
ask me
was that.
on those Tuesday nights, what's new? What's been going on in your week? Not much, nothing.
No, nothing going on. Yeah, I remember at one point you were like, "Yeah, well, I've decided to clean the whole apartment and the whole condo up," and you were like doing all this. Like, well, good for you. That's great. Maybe it's the end of the year. It's and you were getting ready for him. Later on, and you were just like, "Yeah, I just decided to do some cleaning." Okay, good for you. And that was happening. So, ankle bracelet. First weeks out of federal prison. What was it like when Kevin finally landed and was in your place?
Obviously, there was an initial awkwardness, um, but we got over that very quickly. Um, we were turned out we were both actually very like-minded. I'm a very easygoing guy, and I love hosting and having people in my home, whoever they are. And for someone who had been a mentor and I'd been listening to his training for a decade by that point, it was a joy for me and for him. He's out of prison. He's living with someone, so it was a joy for him to be anywhere but where he was. And
Beware,
so
but there, yeah.
so it took him time to acclimate. He basically wore sweats for a month. It took him time. He had to learn smartphones. They still had flip phones when he went away, and so now everything
Yep.
was a smartphone, and so he had to figure out that technology. But he was stuck in my place. He had time to do those things, and he just figured it out. Took the time. Um, we ate well. I expected it to be super diet health when he moved in, and that wasn't the case for a while.
I was going
He
to
wanted to
ask
eat
you that to
everything.
tell some of the stories. Yeah, he wanted to eat some food, because people think that Kevin is, because he's the natural cures guy. They think he's puritanical, about the way he eats, and while he does, tend toward healthier choices, he'll certainly, eat good fun stuff. I know. Remember you telling me stories of making like pot roast and chili, and like the ice cream story about how like a half a ton of really good ice cream showed up at your door that Tanya from the fan club had sent over because he just what happened with that?
Yeah, that was actually great. He actually got out a few weeks later than we thought. So uh, she had sent it to me, and it was winter, so she was concerned, but it was fine. I had it in my freezer, and Dr. Tom and Blaine, the first time we were trying to get him out and he didn't get out, he called us from prison, said there was a slight delay. And we're like, well, I hope you're out soon because this ice cream is delicious. But obviously, we saved most of it for him. And
Oh, good. Yeah.
yeah, even after that, then he's like, okay, this was really good. Now we got to try uh, brand A, B, C, and D and see if they're as good as this one, just to be sure.
What he does. He's always got to, compare against it. It's the funniest thing. We'll hire a contractor. In early on in the marketing for gin, we were like looking at hiring some people to build some landing pages, and he said, "Well, we'll hire 5 people and give them the same job and see how it goes." And then that's just the way he does things. And so, yeah, and of course, just like with anything, with it could be a cleaning product for your coffee maker, or what's the best ice cream. Let's just get a bunch and compare. Um, what did anything surprise you about him? Like when he first came to live with you?
Other than the food thing, what surprised me um, was that he had been working out 4 hours a day in prison, give or take. Uh, so he had this big barrel chest and this really skinny body because he didn't really eat a lot of the food. He didn't like the food. Who would? Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
and so we started eating. So like I almost had to fatten him up a little bit. Not really, but just kind of get him back. Um, and all
Yeah.
he owned was two sets of clothes and two Brioni suits that someone had saved for him. And he
Oh,
put it
wow.
on and like, oh, it fits perfectly. Of course, 10 years away, it still fit him perfectly. Um,
Yeah, because he
but
was like emaciated.
he didn't wear them. He just wanted to be in sweats with these slippers with his toe sticking out, and he was happy, comfortable. Oh, what surprised me is that I had to get a smart TV so he could watch the football playoffs. I got rid of my TV because of Kevin in the first place. I'm like, oh, it's a waste.
Yeah.
You're wasting time. Now I had to get a TV because the playoffs were on, and that's what they did when he was away. So he wasn't going to miss that.
Yeah, well, of course, I in my time with him, would he would always watch TV in the evenings, old TV shows and like the stuff or sports, because it's a distraction as he describes it for the conscious mind, so the subconscious mind can work. He would always sit there. He'd have his priority manager and a notepad of paper with him, and sometimes he would start writing, and so that was kind of his thing. But yeah, he does. People get into the training and they realize that TV's a distraction. They get rid of their TVs, and then they're surprised when Kevin's like watching sports or watching reruns of Heart to Heart or Matlock or whatever it is. So yeah, it is. It's the funniest thing. Yeah. Um. So that you are describing, I should have asked you to show the picture of Kevin that you took when he first got out, when he had like the Albert Einstein crazy long hair, didn't have a penny to his name, still had two Brioni suits and an ankle bracelet. And that was, when was that? That was 2021. It's 2026 as we're recording. This was 5 years ago. In that time, he has rebuilt like an empire, is living in a 10,000 square foot house, has a Bentley and a Mercedes, and he's buying more cars too. He's got a few more on that he's working on, and has built a very successful life from rebuilt a very successful life from scratch. It's pretty amazing. Um, to have witnessed the part of it that I witnessed. You saw him at ground zero, square zero, square one, coming out of prison. What did you notice, like in the 8 or 9 months he was with you? I mean, what changed? What did he start building? What did he start doing? What lifestyle habits did you start to observe of him in the very? It was like the incubation of shifting back toward this.
First two of the happiest days of his life were one when he got the real priority manager and had his first to-do list in 7, 8 years. Um, and he was even on the phone going, I have a to-do list now. I don't know if I should be happy about it or not, because he was so used to not having any of that. But he was really
Yeah.
happy about that. The second thing was he got his little handheld tape recorder so that anytime he had a thought, without looking at it, he can just like click it on, talk into it, and click it right off without thinking about it. And he was so happy that he had those two things because that allowed him to create. When he came out, I asked him because obviously he was in prison. You want to get out, but um, my place was 850 square feet condo, not that big, and he really couldn't go past the patio. In prison, they had
Mhm.
200 acres and a movie theater, and I'm like, okay. So specifically, what reasons did you want to come out? And he goes, well, I obviously he wanted to engage with other people, and he was ready to create again. And even
Mhm.
though we see some of the things he created when he was away, he wanted to create in a different way that he just is not able to do in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember him to jump off on what you just said. I remember him telling me that, before he went away, he had a desire to go to a different place spiritually, and he really wanted to get to this higher level. And it was like he had to let go of certain things in his life. And we saw that happen. We saw him, he lost his freedom, and then he lost all of the receivers came in and auctioned off all of his stuff. He didn't have any possessions left in the whole world. And he was perfectly happy to leave it behind. And he did a lot of spiritual work. I mean, look what came out of that, the Guru Kev lessons, the Science of Personal Mastery course. If he didn't go to prison, it never would have been conceived. It wouldn't exist. He wouldn't have been able to, take a break from the priority manager and then channel all that stuff down the way that he did. So, when you kind of bookend that now and say, yeah, he was ready to create again, it was like he was ready to come back to this other place in his life. And, I just did a fly on the wall a few weeks ago where I went in for 24 hours. It was nice because I didn't have to have my priority manager out. I wasn't answering a bunch of questions. I just got to observe him. And those two things are, he's got them with him all the time. He's got his priority manager, and got, he still has that tape recorder. It might be the same one he had at your house. And I saw him use both multiple times because it's just, and he likes the tactile contact and that he can rewind it. He's very old school. I sometimes, use the voice memo on my iPhone. He doesn't like that because it's too much. He's got to go in and find it and use it. But
He still
yeah,
talks to
those are
Simon
his
every
primary
night.
creation. Yeah,
When
see,
he
that
gets
was you saying he used to. Yeah, yeah, he talked to Saima. They were very close at the time. She was in touch with him in prison, and because that's what he was looking for. He was looking for someone to take him to the next level, and she just reached out to him. It was like in the ether. There was no, he didn't know I remember him asking Tanya to look at who is Saima because she sent him a letter in prison. And yeah, so that was a very special thing, and they still talk. He was going through his to-do list when I was there doing my fly in the like Saima, she's been calling, I gotta call her back. Yeah, but he definitely has kind of moved back toward, is a productive fedora wearing, multimillionaire of Kevin Trudeau. It's that guy's back all the way. And I think that guy who he needs to be for this stage of his dharma, getting a message out to millions across the world. He was told at a very young age by his uncle that, you might want to consider being the guy in the suit because in the West, a spiritual guru who's in a loincloth is not someone that a lot of people in the West are going to listen to. It's just isn't you're not going to get that kind of market penetration. Kevin can do a lot better. So, and we're watching him go. He's just getting started. Um, what would you say about just in terms of the club? One of the special things about it is, the inner work, the training, and the community. Those two things. What do you think is the most important thing, or both, or how would you comment on those two aspects?
I think they kind of go hand in hand. While I've met people who it was their first event and they'd been in the club for 6 years and they were maybe level 4 or 5, but they'd never met anybody. They never really did anything other than did the training at home. And there is a big
Yeah,
difference between someone like that and someone who engages and goes to all the events and meets people. And meeting people, the people are in Jin are unique, not just because they're like minded and kind of doing the same things, but you could tell when you talk to them how excited they are just to be there and how the people at the events, how they're integrating the training in their lives and how supportive they are of each other. The people in
yeah,
Jin are the best people in my life, and you know, many or most of my best friends today are all people from the club that I've met over the years.
yeah. I can
The
say the
training,
same thing.
but the training is also critical. The people, the training, and the events are the three most important parts of the club, and
Yeah,
we all do them as much as time and finances allow, which is different, obviously, for everybody. But the more of those you could do, just the better your results are going to be. And it's a joy and a pleasure. The people are in there. It's not like, oh, I got to go to an event. Oh, no, or I got to meet people or do this work. They can't wait because it's a joy. It's fun. and they
Yeah.
see the results in their lives.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to events and see everybody, see all your old friends again and meet new people. And I think that that process of engaging in training and going to events and the community, it's how to be more like Kevin. I don't mean be a clone of him. I mean how to be how effective in your life the way he's effective in his life. If you want to have some of that power, follow this process, and know that it's, the improvement that you're going to go through. Yeah, you got to do stuff, but it's not a one man show. The support and the environment you get around is kind of what enables you to to become a much more effective Superman. Someone who gets things done, someone who makes their dreams come true. So yeah, I love that. We're going to talk about you in a minute and some of the things you're creating, but something you created in the past. There was a point where Kevin, was no longer living with you. He left you and came to live with me. Why couldn't he just keep living with you? And what did he help you? What did he help you do? That's a manifestation story I want to hear.
Even before he came to live with me, I had a specific vision, and part of that vision was having a home in the country. Now, you and I had already started the retreats together, um, and that's obviously a different story, or maybe we'll get to that or not. But I was
Yeah.
doing the retreats. We had already hosted the first retreat before he came to live with me, and so I was kind of looking for a place, one, to host retreats, and also I had long had a dream. Even before I got in gin, the first days when we were doing dream building, I knew I wanted a house in the woods or in nature where I could invite a lot of people from the club or just from my life and create with. And
Mhm.
so by the time Kevin came to me, I knew more or less where I wanted to go, and I was looking for places almost every day. At the time, he had already come to live with me, and I was, part of the reason I clean obviously was for Kevin, but also because I wanted to sell that place, and
Yeah.
he couldn't stay there. But if I sold it when he was living there, if he didn't have another place, they would take him back to jail because he didn't have a place. Well, I can't do that. I can't send him back to prison. Uh,
Right.
so I was perfectly happy to have him stay there. I'll sell it later. Wasn't not a problem. But
Yeah.
um, living with Kevin, there's always um, a little bit need to create more. Because you see what he's doing and you feel his energy, and it kind of gets you that burn
Yeah.
where you don't want to just
Yeah.
kind of sit back
Love
and
it.
slouch when you see him. Even when he's sitting back and doing nothing, he's not really doing nothing. He's still creating, and it
Yeah.
inspires you to kind of do more. So I got pushed, and I found this place in Kentucky that I live in now with like 35 acres that I love, and I bought
Mhm.
it at the time he was living with me, and so I had both these places, and um, we knew from day one that he wasn't going to stay forever. That part of the plan was for him always to get a place of his own as they allowed, and he wasn't really sure where. He was trying to get transferred to Simon, Florida. That never worked out. That
Yep.
was, interesting.
Yeah. No.
And
Yep.
eventually, he had the opportunity to uh, do sort of a lateral move to just a different, larger place in the same area, in the same county. We'll say where his
Yep.
case was, and you know, all his court supervisors were.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
turned out to be with you, who you started Team Alpha. By that point, you had been made managing director of Gin, which is another
Yep.
interesting story. Um,
That's another interesting story too. Yeah.
and
Maybe one of these days we'll have you interview me and tell the other side of the story. But but that was just so amazing how, with that house, because I would be there with him. I would come out throughout the summer and be working with Kevin, and we'd be hanging out at your house. You'd be in Kentucky, and he's like, oh, he's like, okay, Josh is getting you had there was it was took a while to close. He's like, oh, I got to talk to Josh. You got to keep his spirits up, and because it was like there was a little bit of back and forth with the real estate agent, but just how you had been talking about this, and you went and created it, made it happen, and before I knew it, by the end of that summer, you owned a house in Kentucky. I'm like, where'd this come from? So yeah, it was really neat to see that dream come true, and you're still there, and this is a perfect segue into what you have been doing. Let's talk about the retreats. let's talk about your dream first of all. I mean, and your dream about doing retreats, where this dream, how this dream came to be, and then like what you've been doing the last couple of years about the retreats and what you've accomplished with them.
When I started the retreats with you, I just kind of had a thought, and it was a thought of an event. Let's get a bunch of guys at a cabin in the woods type thing, do a Napoleon Hill style mastermind where we're having fun. We're not necessarily talking about work or business or the training so much. We can do a little of that, but
Mhm.
we're having fun with like-minded people and just feeling great and not worried about life, but still creating a little bit together. Let's just have a fun 3-day event, because we would go to all the major events, and I always sort of like, you know, the meeting after the meeting, I believe is what it was called, where you just, you know,
Yeah.
you kind of have this high from the event and from the training, but then you have all these wonderful people and you just want to socialize. You can't sleep, and it's like, oh, there's all these beautiful people now that I want to connect with. I'm like, well, what if we did that for just
Yeah.
like 3 days, without all this other stuff that we're constantly running around to, and without such a huge
Yeah.
group. And so one day when you and I were, um, I think we were working with Heather Ramsey, uh, and digging deep into our sweet spot, after figuring out 7 or 8 sweet spots that I wrote down that I wasn't 100% lined up with, I kind of came up
Mhm.
with, wait, what about that retreat idea? And literally, I called
Mhm.
you up, you were out of town. I'm like, you want to be my co host if I do this? You said yes. And within a week, I had a place booked, um, which we never went to because COVID happened and I had to do a big shift on that whole thing. Uh, but that
Yeah,
was a
we had to
blessing.
wait like 6 months or something, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a blessing because I ended up shifting back more towards even my original vision, which was a small cabin in the woods with a small group, rather than
Yep.
a little more bigger, elaborate thing, which I was trying to do right off the bat. And that turned out to be great. I think you and we did a call every week for maybe 10 months, maybe a year before we actually had this
Yep.
retreat. And
Yep.
we still didn't know what it was going to be like until we got there and actually did it. And at the end of it, everyone was sat there on the step. No one wanted to go home. Like this
No
was
one wanted to
something.
go home. We're all sitting there on the porch. Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
was something we got to
That
keep
was
doing this.
that was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And good. And you have kept doing it. You've got one coming up pretty soon, don't you?
I have one coming up a week from tomorrow, actually, May
A week from
14th,
tomorrow. Awesome.
and
Outstanding. Did you end up selling it out?
it's not quite sold out. There's still a few spots. If you're a member, if you're a non-member, you could join the club really quickly and go. And you do have to buy a
I will
ticket.
put it for members. Yeah, for members, I will put a link directly to it in the description for the video. If you go to click on the link and you're not a member, it won't let you in. But he's
Yes.
got a couple of spots left. If you want to sell it out, I'm no longer in marketing. I'm now the executive assistant to Danielle. So you talk to Dustin if you want to hit some more marketing. It's no longer my department. But yeah, awesome. What do you have planned for this one coming up? Where
We
yeah, what activities and tell everybody about what you would expect at a Josh Novey retreat.
Well, it's 3-day mastermind, and when you buy a ticket, it's all inclusive of lodging, food, drink, and the event. And the event is, um, a lot of connecting with other people, meeting each other. We do campfires at night. We do an early morning hike, get some exercise, get out and connect with nature. We have specific sessions that are for dream building. We're doing one that I just started at the last retreat and came out really well, called an opportunity forum, in which each person there,
Okay.
because they're small groups, we're talking 8 or 10 people,
Mhm.
each person will have their opportunity to say who they are, what they're about, what opportunity, if they have opportunities they want to share with other members, or if they just want to
Mhm.
ask other members and say, hey, I'm reading this book, I've gotten this out of the training, this is what I'm about, and have other people learn about them and they learn about all the other people there. And we did that at the last retreat, and it was such a great experience. We kept going until like 10 o'clock at night by the fire. We just kept talking about that particular uh, forum that we were doing because it was just great and everybody got their opportunity. So this time I've expanded it. Um, we'll have a whole day. We share all our meals together, so we all sit at the table and break bread together. And I feel that's kind of important too. And it's really about making connections with the other people. All the people who go there, they make friends that are going to last a lifetime in the club, not
Yeah.
just people who they see at the next event and say hi. They're like, oh, that person is now my friend. I want to sit with them. You know,
Mhm.
I'm going to plan things
Yeah.
with them.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Wow. I mean, just so much. I mean, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Josh. Do you have any, just wrapping it up, do you have any parting words of wisdom for someone who might be watching this and they're trying to figure out what their next step is?
Yeah, if you're not in the club and you're considering it, it is a great opportunity to not just take your life to another level, but really learn about yourself, who you are,
Mm,
and what you really want, and what you want to create. The thing about the club is you can go there. Some people are in there for a year or two, and they learn what they want, and they move on. And some people, because there's so much you could do, and there's so much you can create and learn, they just want to keep doing it over and over again. So a lot of the people in the club are friends for life. And if it's just something you're really considering, get with me or David, or just go on the website, check it out. Uh, you can contact support and just talk to somebody about it and see what they think. Check it out. You could buy the Your Wishes Your Command book and just read that book and see if it's something for you. And if it's not, that's fine too, because maybe you'll learn something along the way about yourself or about life that you didn't know before, and that's always a win too. So you have nothing to lose.
awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. This has been Josh Novey and David Krueger talking about wisdom, Kevin Trudeau, and old times. Give us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the interview. And if you have any additional questions or anything else you'd like to see on the channel, anything that maybe this has brought up some ideas, some questions you might have. And please hit like and subscribe and smash the notification bell so that YouTube tells you when I put up new videos. I've got close friends in the club who said, I didn't know you put a video up. I said, you got to hit the notification bell. So do that, and I will see you next time. Love you guys. Till next time.